Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, brought to you by ugozi.com. And in this podcast and at HireMyVA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And that means your bank. Right. And I'm Dave Braun. I'm here with my partner and fantastic business mentor and coach. He already gave me some advice today. But most importantly, he's my really, really good friend, Larry Broughton. Larry.
Hello, handsome Dave.
Tell us how you doing today.
I am great. I'm great. Things are getting better every single day. You know, it's a great life if you don't weaken. Someone told me that once. No, I'm doing great, Dave. How are you? You doing all right?
Doing well. Beautiful day outside today.
Yeah. I just got back. I spent yesterday in Palm Springs with a couple of business associates, and it was just a great, productive day. So I'm glad to be here with you today.
Yeah, fun stuff.
Getting my needs met. Well, just the emotional stuff. You know, I love this business stuff. So I know that we've got some really good questions that we're going to touch on today. So this one makes me chuckle every time we hear it. So
I know this is episode 133. Right. The question is, how many hours does a virtual assistant work? In other words, should I hire a virtual assistant part-time or full-time? Because I think that's what people are really asking. Right?
Well, this could be the shortest podcast we've ever done.
That's going to be, I don't know, between you and me, really, a short podcast?
Yeah, because here's the answer. You ready?
Yeah.
Now don't blink or don't focus on this because you could miss it and then we're going to be done. It depends. That's the answer.
Whoa, that's profound.
It depends. But let's dive into this. Why the heck am I saying this? Right? Listen, it just depends on what you're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so many examples of different things. We have some in our businesses, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've got one person who's working 20 hours a week,
right.
And that works for him because he's got another client he wants to work for, and he doesn't want to, even though we've, maybe asked him to go full time. He's like, I just don't want to. He wants to keep both clients, and that's a cool thing.
Yeah.
And Daff on our team, she works 30 hours a week. So basically, she's working 4 days a week, and because she likes a longer weekend, right? That works for her. She really values some of that extra time off and her family.
Well, let's go back. Let's rewind this a little bit. So I understand where the question comes from. It's just, I think you and I have heard this so many times between masterminds and podcast things and people submitting questions. It just makes me chuckle because I get that people don't get the math right on this, Dave. So why are we trying to hire virtual assistants? Well, we're trying to find more freedom in our life, right? We're trying to find freedom so that I, as the business owner or the manager or the leader of the organization, can free up some of my own time to grow the business, right?
Absolutely.
Or maybe I'm just working so many stinking hours, I need help, right? And so oftentimes we get stuck, Dave, in this math. Okay, I'm spending, let's do a simple one. It's the one that we use oftentimes. Larry, Dave, I'm spending 15 hours a week doing accounting stuff, and it's not my strength, and I'm always making mistakes. I need to find somebody who really knows how to do this, but I can't afford to hire somebody for 15 hours a week, right? And so they get stuck on this 15 hours times 4.3 weeks in a month. They get stuck on that math times the hourly rate that they're going to pay someone here in California or New York or wherever they are. The math really starts with the number of hours. If you are an expert in that area of accounting, it might take you 15 hours, but it might take an expert a third or 25%, sometimes even a tenth of the number of hours, right? And if you go through our program and you use some of these, someone from a different developing country or like the Philippines, a place like that, the hourly rate is much lower. Mm-hmm. So they'll be bringing a level of expertise. So it might take you 15 hours a week, but it might take them 3 hours a week times a much lower hourly rate. So
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons why I chuckle, not just because it's like, okay, we've heard it before, but it's like, I love the look on people's their faces when the light bulb goes off. What, you're telling me I can hire an expert, someone who has a master's level education at a fraction of what we pay somebody here in Southern California, and it's going to get done quicker and more accurately the first time around. Sign me up for that.
Sounds pretty good to me.
Yeah. And so you think that you got to hire a full-time person when you probably only need to hire a part-time person.
Yeah.
But this is why some of these conversations that we have, Dave, like the Q&As that we do, people can kind of dial in and we can talk this through, because oftentimes somebody thinks they might need to have a full-time accounting virtual assistant, but really what they need maybe is either a part-time accounting person or maybe a general VA who can do some of that basic stuff plus other things
Right.
as well. What say ye? You agree?
What say? Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree. You know, we were talking about the different folks in our organization and how when we say, yeah, like you said, it depends, it kind of depends upon the agreement that you have between what works for a particular person's lifestyle in the Philippines and what, you know, what you need. So it kind of runs the gamut, but you know, like you said, though, it's really part-time versus full-time. That's one way to think about it. But you know, and you know, one of the things we talk about in our course and some of our experience though is we try to get somebody to work more exclusively. So in other words, if they're going to work, like Daff, for example, a great example of her, she's working 30 hours a week, but she's exclusive to us. She doesn't work for anybody else. The problem when you have somebody working part-time for two different people, two different companies, is their loyalties are split.
Well, the loyalties are split, but often Murphy's rule is the time that you need them is going to be the time that their other employer needs them as well.
Yeah.
And then you just can't get them.
Right.
So you're right. I do like to point out that the experience that we've had is if you can get someone you can't force someone to work for you exclusively, right?
No.
But if you give them the number of hours that they need, or at least the salary that they're requiring, they're much more likely to be available for you. Another thing to consider, Dave, particularly if you're working with someone from the Philippines, is there is an hour difference. There are a few people who do like to work off hours there, which would be hours that you might be working business hours here. And obviously it depends on whether you're in Hawaii or New York, right? But for the most part, there is how many hour difference is it?
Right now, the easiest way to think about it is if you're on the Eastern time zone, they're 12 hours ahead.
Yeah, so 15 from California.
Yeah, so it's like if you're on the East Coast, it's just their AM is your PM and vice versa the next day.
Yeah. So that's
daylight savings time, by the way.
Hopefully that's all going to go away one day. Anyway.
Maybe we'll see.
Yeah. So the number of hours that they should be working really depends on what it is that you are requiring them or asking them to do. What type of VA are you looking for? Are you looking for one who is an expert in a specific area, or are you looking for a general VA? We find oftentimes that these general VAs can bring a lot more efficiency and effectiveness to an organization than the business owner ever could imagine. Right.
Yeah.
So maybe, Dave, can you take 30 seconds to describe what does a general VA do?
General VA, 30 seconds is pretty much anything that you want them to, that they can do remotely. And Larry, we've gone over that kind of stuff in multiple episodes.
Yeah.
Like episode 94, what does a virtual assistant do? We talked about all kinds of examples there. We've got all kinds of examples in the course. You can also just Google and you can get some ideas of what does a virtual assistant do. One of the problems that we find in people's thinking is that they say, I just need the virtual assistant. I need somebody to take one or two things off my plate that are driving me crazy. Well, that is a little bit of a limited thinking. All right. What we find is once you get somebody on your team, and, you know, maybe like I think we've talked about before, a general virtual assistant, a lot of times is going to be somebody's first hire. But once you start getting a few things off of your plate, then you're like, wow, I could give them this. I could give them that. and that and that and that. And then pretty soon you were thinking, I don't even know. Originally you were thinking, I don't even know if I can keep somebody busy 20 hours a week.
Right.
Now you're like, dang it, I wish I would have hired them for 40 hours.
Or I need to hire the second person. We've seen that more oftentimes than I can
Yeah.
count, right? Yeah, because all of a sudden you are freed up to focus on what you're good at, and most of us are good at, leading, expanding, growing the business, getting more clients. You got more work for them to do than they can even handle.
Yes.
There's an exercise, we talk about it all the time about the 3-column exercise, but it was around that same time, Dave, of the number 94. Might have been a few weeks after that. We did the delete, delegate, defer, the podcast, and that's something that you should really listen to. If you're trying to figure out what do I need to get off my plate that I can hand over to a VA, that's a really good one. And knowing you probably know what podcast that was.
Episode 124.
So look at that. Like, I know that I'm overwhelmed. I know I've got a lot on my plate, but I don't know what I could possibly give to a VA. Once you get this emotional and time freedom in your life, it's amazing how your quality of life changes. You find passion in your work again. You enjoy what you're doing again. Business becomes attracted to you. Other people become attracted to you. And you're going to find that there's a lot you could be delegating and deferring.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
And I know some of you folks have already heard that or listened to that episode, but maybe by the time you're coming back to this one, you probably need to do the 3-column exercise again.
Yeah.
Because your business changes, your opportunities change, your products and services that you're going to be offering changes quite often. So it's an important thing to redo, or at least maybe not totally redo from scratch, but to update on a regular basis. And it's also, Larry, it's so important to have that mindset, especially when an entrepreneur starts out there, a solopreneur, and they got to do everything themselves. And so the mindset is, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that. Well, the mindset needs to change once you have somebody on your team to thinking, okay, I've got to do that, but can I delegate it?
Yeah, right.
And instead of saying, can I delegate it, say, how can I delegate it?
Yes.
Really figure it out.
Yeah. I want to go back for a second, Dave, if we can. I want to kind of put a fine point or an exclamation point on this conversation about if you hire someone part-time and they're working part-time for someone else, that they may not be available when you need them.
Right.
And the reason I want to do that is because we see this oftentimes. It comes up often. So maybe there might be a hierarchy here. So if you do this, if you go back and listen to, was it 120, what for the delete, delegate, defer, 124, was it? If you listen to that, you may realize, geez, maybe I do have enough work to hire someone full time. That's kind of we think that's really that's the top, that's the ideal. Hire someone full time. Number 2 is hire them part time, but they work exclusively for you. That might be someone who only wants to work 20 hours a week, or they only want to work 10 hours a week, or they only want to work like 30 hours a week. They don't want to work for somebody else. There are people out there that are like that. This is something to consider, Dave, is to hire someone who works part-time for you, but also for part-time for somebody else, another business owner that you know.
Yeah.
Where you've got a relationship with them. And that's the great thing about this community, right? Is that there's plenty of people who realize, really, I only need somebody 10 hours a week. And by the way, fellow HireMyVA tribe member, you need somebody 10 hours or 30 hours a week, because we can split them up. Why is that important? Because then you're talking business owner to business owner. How can we make this work for both of us, right? And then I think finally is that part-time sharing with somebody that you don't know. But you are really going to have to be clear about setting your expectations with those types of people, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because the truth is they need to help you with your business. And if they're not available to help you with your business, why have them on the team?
Yeah, you really, really have to be careful when they're part-time of their overlap hours. Make sure it's maximized so you do have some of those with you, so you can direct them appropriately, or people on your team can direct them appropriately.
Dave, explain what overlap hours for those who might not know.
So overlap hours are, remember we talked about, what time is it in the Philippines, for example. It doesn't have to be there. It could be anybody that you're working with remotely.
Sure.
If they're 3 hours different from you,
Right.
it doesn't matter. But you have to decide on what hours during the day you want them to be working when you are working on a normal basis.
Mm-hmm.
It could be 1 hour. It could be just a couple days a week for a couple hours. It could be half of every day, or it could be the entire day. It just depends upon you. And we could talk about this maybe in another podcast, is how do you decide that?
Yeah.
Right. How do you decide what is the best amount of overlap to have with somebody?
Yeah. Dave, do we handle this differently for our friends and community who have taken the HireMyVA course versus our white glove service people?
When you say when we handle it differently, well, on our white glove
With the
service, we
guidelines.
actually talk to them about it and say what works best for you. So in other words, we do this in the prepare meeting. That's part of it. So when you come into the white glove service, we have basically 3 meetings with you. One is the prepare, where we get through your requirements and we talk to you about how you work in your business. Who do you really want? We talk then about the overlap times. Like,
By the
what
way,
is
our
really
white
going to
glove
work?
service is where we will find candidates for you, and
Yeah.
you pick the final candidate versus
Right.
just saying, hey, here's how you do it. I'm sorry, I
Right.
should have explained that first. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Okay. And then we have a hire meeting where we guide you on how to do your onboarding meeting with them and all that kind of stuff, and maybe discuss with you if you are on the fence of hiring 1 or 2, which person should you hire that will match with your personality. We give you different things to think about. In fact, we just had one client where we said, based upon what your tasks are, we think you should do this person. But then the other one said, but then she actually chose somebody else because of a personality.
Yeah.
We're going to see how that works out, because I'm not sure it's going to work out.
Yeah.
But she had her reasons. It's like, okay, you're the boss. And so then we end up we've changed it recently, Larry, to do 2 Thrive meetings.
Yeah.
The one is like a week after we do a quick 15-minute meeting a week after you hired and just see how it's going with you. And then after that, we'll do something like 3 or 4 weeks later, a little bit longer one, so that you and your virtual assistant can, thrive. We work through some of those issues that you may have. And most of the time the issues aren't with the VA, it's with you.
Ain't that the truth? Isn't that what we
especially
usually
after
find
a
out?
week? Yeah. Especially after a week.
Yeah. And so this whole question about, how many hours do you expect them to work? Well, again, it really comes back to you. What are your needs? Right. More often than not, I think we find that people think I only need somebody for 15 hours a week, but then as they get going and they see how productive they are, they realize I could be handing over a whole lot of other things to them. But it takes courage. Let's be honest. It takes courage and patience from the business owner to do this. Dave, most folks are not going to thrive with a VA if they have the perfectionist mentality. Only I can do it. No one can do it as well as me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they don't offer grace. And that's the same with any team member, by the way, not just the virtual assistant.
That's right.
You'll just find it absolutely nerve-wracking, and you'll be frustrated if you don't work on that part first, right? But if you want to dip your toe in the water, start out part-time. Nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
There isn't at all. Now, one of the things to remember also, though, is as we recommend, going the Filipino route, the difference in cost between somebody part-time versus full-time really isn't that much. Just a few $100s a month.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very affordable. That's why in the program, Larry, and how we've talked a lot about this is we recommend people starting off full-time.
Yeah.
Somebody.
Yep. I agree. Good. Well, there you have it. How many hours does a virtual assistant work? It depends, but really I'd lay dollars to donuts full-time.
Yeah.
You will find work for them. And the value they bring is just so powerful.
Yeah.
So powerful.
That's right.
And if you don't know, start with the general VA.
Yeah, that's usually where we recommend, but it depends. Some folks in the technical realm need to hand off some technical stuff, and that works too.
That
works too.
Totally get it.
Okay.
Yep.
Awesome.
Good. Great.
Anything else, sir?
No, I think it's good. Let's wrap this up.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us today. And remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we are here to help you with our course community and our white glove service, where we find a rockstar VA for you. We talked a little bit about that in this episode. But 3 things we'd love for you to do right now, and we'd really appreciate it. Number 1, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already done so, either on your iPhone or Android phone, and on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button and clicking the little bell next to it to get reminders. And then number 2, give us a rating. We'd love for you guys to give us a 5-star rating, but also leave a comment below this video if you're watching us on YouTube, because that will help get the word out. The more engagement there is, the more YouTube will push our videos up, and we want to really help people with this. We think we've got some good content here. Because we want to give people freedom. But then the third thing is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our white glove service. Because remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry, we're excited about all the folks that we're helping, and we want to help you too. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yep. And we'll keep it simple. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Okay. Bye, everybody.